Alright, so here he comes. The car should at least chirp tires if it had full power. That's full power. He's in third gear. He's gonna floor it. This is totally floored right there. As you can tell, the car is just not accelerating whatsoever. He's when he's in third gear at like 5,000 RPM, that should definitely be jumping up some, but the miles per hour is going around like 45 and then 46, 47, 48.
It is going up normally. Like I'm in fifth or sixth gear, and when I step on it, it's not even, doesn't have anything.
Yeah, so it's hard to really explain what it does, but basically if you're trying to go full throttle and you really know how much power is in the car, then it's definitely bogging on power. But like I said, again, you're gonna need to be able to know how much power your car has. If you don't know the normal speed and horsepower of this car, it's hard to tell. But it's not like a very obvious bog. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it will cut power, it'll give you full range, and then it'll cut for a second. But the knock sensor is causing all of these issues. It's just such a weird thing to really diagnose, because you're gonna swear it's something else, maybe a math, spark plugs, which it's always good to change those, but it's almost always the knock sensor and the harness for it. So these 350Zs are notorious for blowing the knock sensors and the knock sensor harness, but if you know these motors, then you know the knock sensor is an absolute pain to get to. It's basically, if you look on the front of the DE motors, there's a hole, and inside is the knock sensor. It's basically down in there. You can kind of see it. It's hard to get a light on it, but basically it is in here, and it sits on the inside of the motor and basically detects pings in the motor, and it adjusts the timing depending on the pings. Well, when the harness goes bad, which is usually what does go bad because it sits on the motor and it usually burns through the harness, basically it doesn't detect the pings and it messes your timing up. So when you're stepping down on gas and you're wide open throttle, it adjusts the timing at the wrong times and basically kills your power, and it feels like you're driving a car with 30 horsepower. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna take everything apart. We gotta take the upper plenum off, the middle plenum, and the lower intakes. Take that all out, and then there's the knock sensor. Pull it out, redo the harness. Everything that you guys will have to do that we already have done is the strut bar. We've already taken that out. It's somewhere over here. But that was when we did the spark plugs. We knew we were going to be doing the knock harness and sensor, so we didn't put that back in. But that is usually 4 12 or 14 millimeter bolts. I believe it was 12s on this car, and then that will just pull right off. And then I guess once you get there, you are exactly where we are. So let's get started. All right, guys. So this is pretty much everything you're going to need: a Phillips head, a flat head, a pair of pliers, 10 millimeter, and if you have an impact wrench, go ahead and bring that out, because that just makes the job a lot easier, because there's a bunch of 10 millimeters that go around the top of the plenum, and of course having an automated tool just makes life a lot easier than hand tooling everything. Okay, so we got the intake pretty much removed and out of the way. We went around the plenum and took all of these bolts and brackets off all the way around, and then we took the ones off in the middle. There is 2 tubes in the back. One of them is for the intake and the others for the throttle body, I believe. You got to take them off, but I always like to loosen up the plenum first. That way you can kind of shift the plenum up and then have somebody also help you take the ones off the back. It just gives you more room, since it's a little tight there in the back. So that's what we are going to do now. All right, as you can see, I've got Vinny holding up the plenum, so that gives you access.
Pretty dirty in there.
Yeah, it's pretty dirty. It's going to be these plenums. Well, these cars burn oil, so a lot of the oil gets caught here in the top upper plenum and middle plenum if you don't have a PCV delete or oil catch can. So that's not a worry. You can always clean this up, so don't worry about that, guys. I know it's going to look very nasty in there. But yeah, as you can see, he's holding it up, which gives us access to these 2 tubes. So you're going to want to get a pair of pliers, and you're going to want to loosen these clamps, take those off, and then the entire upper plenum will come out. I also forgot to mention there is a throttle body positioning sensor right here that you're going to want to take off. So you're going to want to set the plenum down and then get a either a needle nose set of pliers or a flathead and just pry that off. All right, as you can see, Vinny's got the upper plenum here. That is completely taken out. There's a better look at all of the bolts and the sensors and what you're looking for. So it's not too difficult. And then that leaves us the middle of the plenum. So this part's pretty simple. That was probably the hardest part. There's a little gasket here, which you can just kind of pry off, but it's held down by these. So you got to take 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. There's 6 of them. And then that loosens this part up, but you do need to take the PCV and slide it off this rail. So once you slide that PCV off, that'll free that. Take those off. This middle section will pull up, which removes the rest of that gasket, and then we can take that section off. All right, we got the middle part of the manifold out. So this is the lower part and the fuel rail and injectors. This part is a little tricky. You're gonna definitely wanna take it slow if you've never done this before. Basically, I know the car looks like it's an inline 6. It is not. That's just the way that it is on the VQs. You're gonna definitely wanna get towels or something and cover this, because if you drop a bolt in any of those, you're screwed. So we got some towels and rags. We're gonna basically just stuff them down in here so that way nothing falls in there. All that's left is we gotta loosen the fuel rail, which is, I believe, a 12, a 12, a 12, and a 12. There's gonna be 4 of them. And then there is some clips that hold the injectors in, or the injector harnesses in. This entire fuel rail will then shift up like that. It's not gonna totally come out. It's just gonna shift towards the rear. What I like to do is get a zip tie, and you can zip tie it to the hood just to hold it up. And that will give us access to these bolts under here. When you take those bolts out, which they are, I believe, also 12s, you take those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 out, and that's going to take out that lower plenum, and that is going to expose our knock sensor. Alright, so now that we got that out, basically what I like to do is I like to get the fuel rail, tie it up with a couple zip ties, and that will basically leave all of this exposed and give you plenty of room to work. So that will give us access to these 12s. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're in the back. So I thought there was 6, there's actually 8. I haven't done this in quite a while. But when you pull the fuel injectors out, there's these little plastic spacers. Now this is for the bolts that bolt in the fuel rail and injectors. You definitely want to take these all out of these sockets, and you want to hold on to them, because this is just to keep the bolts nice and flush against this lower plenum. So hold on to these, do not drop them in the cylinders like I said.
Now he's taking out the lower plenum right now. Okay, there's 4 bolts, 4 nuts on each side. 4 bolts or nuts?
4 nuts, 4 bolts.
All right.
It's 2 and 2. 2, 2, 2, 2. And they're all the same size.
All right, now we got all the 8 bolts off. 4 bolts, 4 nuts.
There is a little harness that gets connected into the back, so you have to...
That green one right there that I see?
Yeah, they've got it held on with 110mm bolt. So there's 110, it's gonna hold that little bracket, and then that'll pull right out.
All right. There we are.
There's the knock sensor and harness.
And there she is. She is right there.
Alright, so there is your knock sensor held down with 112mm bolt and your knock sensor harness. Now the problem with it is this harness basically goes all the way around the back of the motor and plugs into the top of the transmission, or it might be the bottom of the block actually. But this stupid harness, it's such a bad design, because here's your cylinder heads, and this harness just basically snakes between them all, and it gets hot, so it causes it to really malfunction. So just gonna unplug that and then rewire the new one. Alright guys, so basically once you all get that out, you're gonna need to do the same concept, put towels in the cylinder heads, because again, if you drop anything in there, you are screwed, like literally screwed. You will not get it out. It will set on top of the valves and you are literally screwed. So stuff those in there, and then we're gonna go ahead and disconnect. There's a harness in there for the knock sensor. So you can see it right there. So we're gonna disconnect that sensor and pull the knock out. All right, boys, we got the sensor out. That is your
sub harness.
That's the harness. Usually you can tell if it's bad, it'll have like a cut in one of the wires.
Yeah, but these wires.
Those wires are good, but I mean, maybe the harness is good, maybe it's not. But I mean, better be safe than sorry, so just change both of them since you're here. I make it look easy because I've done this a ton of times, but the very first time I did a knock sensor, I'll tell you, it took me 2 days because figuring all this out was a pain. But yeah, this is your knock sensor. This is what causes all of your issues. Doesn't look too bad, but it most likely is bad. And that harness is probably bad too. You just can never tell. So that is pretty much it. Just gotta take the sensor or the harness out now, and gotta cut like this little piece that keeps it together with a wire. I think it's just like a piece of electrical tape, and then yeah, snake the harness down and unplug it from underneath. Only problem with it is getting ready to rain. Actually, it is raining, so we cannot do this in the rain. So we are gonna come back tomorrow when it's a little bit sunnier. And we're back out here. It's day number 2. We had to wait until the rain dried up, and it just rained the rest of the night. So we are back out here the next day. It's nice and sunny now, and we can actually finish this project. So where we left off was we took the knock sensor out, and we have the harness in there. So we need to push the harness through, which it is right here. We just tucked it out of the way. So when you get this harness, we need to push it down to the back of the motor, and we need to get a jack. You're gonna have to get a jack, lift up the side of the car, get a jack stand. Of course, make sure it is not the Harbor Freight jack stands. These are Pittsburgh ones, so we're okay. And we're gonna get underneath the car. We're gonna pull that harness down, unclip it, and then rewire the new one. So I'll show you guys where it's at now. All right, guys, bear with me. It's kind of hard to show you where this is. I'm basically at the passenger side. Okay, if you look up at the passenger cat, this is the cat right here, and follow it up, there's a blue sensor. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's right there. This blue sensor, or that harness, I mean, right there is your knock sensor harness. So there's a clip that's like right there on top of it. You have to take that, pull it out, and then this part of it, which is right there, pulls out and snakes up, and then you got to plug a new one into there. So that, again, that teal harness is the knock sensor harness. So that's what we got to disconnect. There's a 10mm bolt. I'm sure you can see it right there, right above it. That is not needed. You don't have to disconnect that. That's a bracket that holds the rest of it. We're only changing the piece that connects to the knock sensor. So like I said, you just gotta disconnect this right side of it, or it's the harness that is on the back side. So it'd be facing the rear. Let's get started on that. It's a little bit of a pain, I'll be honest. It's a very, very tight squeeze. But if you can reach your arm up there, you can somewhat loosen it and just tug on it and undo the fastener. Okay, so as you can see, we got the connector off. This is the one that comes off. Now this is not the one that you are replacing. This is just the one that slides off. Okay, the one you're replacing is this one right there. Okay, so again, the little one stays in the car. The bigger one is the one that comes out. Now basically the top of it has a sliding mechanism where you have to pull it. Yeah, you pull it towards the back of the car. So you'd pull it this way, like that. So you gotta pull that way. And that'll slide off, and then you just have someone pull it up through the motor. They drop a new harness down, you slide it back on, plug this back up. So that's what we have to do. I cannot physically film it and remove it, I don't think. I'm gonna try, hold on a second. I just don't think it's physically possible. No. Can't do it, gotta have 2 hands, so I'll show you guys in a second. Alright, so we got it out. However, it's a little bit of an issue. This one was really stuck on there. So I didn't take this one off the same way I took it off on my car, but depending on your application, you might have to do it this way. Basically, we were looking at it from this direction. This was the 10mm bolt. I just took the, or nut, I mean, no, it was bolt, I'm sorry. Took the bolt off, and then just took the whole harness off with it. And as you can see, it's got a little clip on top. I think my clip on top was actually snapped, so this entire blue harness just slid off. But now we can slide it off, put the bracket on the new connector, and put it back in there, put the bolt back in, feed this harness up to the top, install the knock sensor, and tighten everything down, put it all back in. Alright, so we disconnected the harness from the clip. Now we're gonna get the new harness and reconnect it to this clip and then bolt it back on. Alright, so we have the knock sensor ran back down. This is the new one. It's gonna basically plug into right here where the knock sensor is gonna go. But if anybody needs to know how this is ran, this right here is the part of the video you really need to watch. It starts here, and then it goes right here at the cylinders, between the cylinder heads, and there's a pipe right here. It goes in between. See right here? It goes underneath that pipe on top of the cylinder heads and snakes through to the side. You can kind of see it right there. And then it drops down to the inside of the motor. And let me show you what it looks like. And then it goes right there. Let me zoom in for you. See? There's the harness. There's the other harness. Move this one out of the way. Like I said, this one stays in the cart. And then that one has a 10mm bolt. So we can block that light. See the 10mm bolt right there? Plug it in. And the harness is in. And then this one gets connected. I need to make sure that bolt right there is tight. As you can see, I've got the connectors in. That is the connector. There's the 10mm bolt. That is nice and tight. So the harness is officially done. Now let me go back up top and plug the knock sensor in. Alright, that is pretty much it for the install. We got the knock sensor back in, tightened down the 12mm, ran the harness. But basically, let me show you guys why these things go bad. So it's a really bad design from Nissan. These are your cylinder heads. And this harness is so incredibly long that basically it twists and it rides up against either this side of the cylinder wall or this side. And this harness literally just gets so darn hot that it gets burnt through, wires break, or this plastic connector gets dry rot and broke. Most of the time the knock sensor isn't actually the piece that goes bad, it's the harness, but since you're here, you might as well just change both. Now in my case, one of these wires got burnt through, but however, in Vinny's case, I came over here.
I got the harness right here in my hand.
Oh, you have in your hand? Look at this. This is Vinny's knock sensor harness. It was literally dry rot.
This doesn't seem like it has anything wrong with it.
Yeah, that
but I'm
looks
sure
okay.
it does. It's probably internal.
And the harness looked okay too until we took it
was
apart.
all dry rotted.
Here's the rest of the harness right here. Literally in pieces. It just sits there every day and cooks and cooks and cooks. I mean, this car's, what, 15 years old, so 15 years of heat inside that motor is gonna break that sensor. So that's what causes those things to pretty much malfunction. But like I said, most of the time, even though it's the harness, change the knock sensor too. You're right here, you might as well. But that right there, you wouldn't believe how much horsepower you pick up with that one little mod. My car felt 2 times faster. My butt dyno was very happy after I installed all this. So yeah, we're gonna start putting everything back together.
Fuel injectors, everything.
Also, don't do what I do. I was supposed to have these sealed. I forgot I took the paper out, but it's okay. We're putting it all back together now. So yeah, time to slap everything on. You guys already saw how to take it apart, so just do that in reverse order. It's very easy. You're gonna put the fuel injectors, or actually we're gonna do lower plenum, then put the fuel injectors on, middle plenum, upper plenum, and put everything back together. Make sure all the bolts are tight, and we'll see if this low carb boogies again. All right, so we're in second gear, and we're doing about 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour at 3,000 RPM. Now he's gonna go ahead and punch it. As you can see, it has a lot more power. So it's bringing all the RPMs up now. There's no bogging down. It's chirping tire between second and third, so all the power is officially back on the car. All right, now we're gonna do a launch from a dead stop all the way up through third. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the vlog. I hope this helps you out. Again, if you're having a bogging issue, other than checking spark plugs and stuff, I would definitely check the knock sensor. And if it definitely is the knock sensor that's bad, it probably is the harness as well. So I would go ahead and change the harness.
Yeah, changing both is the best bet when you're doing this.
Yeah, it's such a pain to get to, and since you're there, you
just
might
want
as
to knock
well
it out in one shot.
and knock it out.
Yeah,
knock sensor, knock it out. Anyways, guys, I hope this helps you out, and definitely the knock sensor is probably the first thing that I would check if you're bogging to this severity that his car was bogging at.
Definitely.
But
the second would definitely be the camshaft sensors,
yeah,
like we were saying.
Camshaft sensors as well, maybe spark plugs, but this knock sensor seems to always be the issue on these Zs. But again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the vlog, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.